Good evening, everybody. I'm Barrett with BarrettIndependent.com. Shalom, Brother Mitch Morris. I hope all is well in your world, homie. This is a special report brought to you by myself and the Dance Monkeys at BarrettIndependent.com. I literally just posted the body of this report at Patreon for the $1 and up patrons and just dropped 3 reports for the $10 and up patrons in addition to this, as well as a daily brief that just got posted. So, civil unrest continues in the United States of America. As of the time of this reporting, 3 June 2020, in the U.S., many protests are peaceful at first, but become riots as night falls and the crowds swell with Antifa members injected into their midst. Riots continue in many cities and in some towns. There are so many that it is not practical to list them all here. While most protests in less dense areas are peaceful, smaller population centers are not exempt from rioting. Plan accordingly. Protests over George Floyd, racial inequality, and police brutality have spread internationally, as if this is a coincidence. England, Germany, France, Spain, Denmark, Italy, Syria, Brazil, Mexico, Ireland, New Zealand, Canada, Poland, Australia, and more. Mr. Brees, I owe you an email. And there's a map here, inset from Wikipedia, that shows locations of worldwide rioting at the moment. Curfews and National Guard activations continue to spread. The National Guard is in some places, Minneapolis, Minnesota, for example, being issued ammunition. Stores, roads, and public transit closures and hour reductions are occurring. There have been both peaceful protests and heartwarming moments and violent riots that end in injury and death. Again, in some areas, the unrest has spread to the suburbs and relatively more rural areas. Guns and ammo are being removed from shelves, often in more rural areas. Pictures of this just went up on Patreon on the daily brief that we will deliver tomorrow morning here on YouTube. Extremists of varying beliefs and political backgrounds are contributing inflammatory rhetoric to the conflict. Do not be part of the problem. Repeating, several people have said that pallets of bricks have mysteriously appeared before scheduled protests, and they're manufactured by the Acme Brick Company, which is not surprising because this is the top U.S. brick maker. Some protesters believe the bricks were planted by police, so the protesters would face tougher charges. Quote, "For all the people protesting, do not pick up the bricks. The government is trying to set up everyone. They are leaving bricks all around cities so the civilians can pick them up and use them as weapons so the government can get martial law involved. This is a setup. The government is trying to be the 10-step ahead of us. Let's protest the right way and get justice." All the exclamation points and number ones. Aliana's tweet on Twitter. That was a great quote. Thank you, Aliana. Guns and canisters or water bottles of gasoline, as well as vandalism supplies, are also sometimes planted prior to protests. Highly coordinated, as I've said. Repeating, news of the pandemic has practically disappeared. Tristan, thank you. Bless you, thank you. No social distancing. Very few masks worn properly. And huge crowds will likely exacerbate the next wave of the virus, which may trigger another round of interesting times after the rioting fades from the news, which of course will be when? My guess is right around November. Oh my gosh, all the post-nasal drip. You all ever had this? This grapefruit sparkling water? It's terrible. It's like drinking liquid 40 grit sandpaper. Thank you, Philip S. It's terrible. but I drink it anyway. Repeating, a security officer notes that spotter cars are being used to scope out areas for looting before protests and to keep an eye out for police and perimeters. They're also using scanners. The towns protected by a heavy local militia presence fare very well. In some cases, the conflict is avoided altogether, and in others, the conflict is resolved quickly. I have personally gotten 3 reports, first-hand reports, in the last 24 hours from people who are protecting their own towns, their own businesses, with their plate carriers and their M4s standing on corners. That the mob showed up, walked up, and went, "Oh, hell no," and just turned around and left. Good job. Good job. A 77-year-old former police chief who was black was shot and killed by looters when he attempted to stop them from looting a pawn shop. There have been multiple other instances where looters and rioters have killed or attacked black people. Clearly, the perpetrators do not believe that Black Lives Matter. The violence is not about race. This, at this point, has nothing to do with George Floyd. Nothing. Some letters from the Bear Nation. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And by the way, bless y'all, Bear Nation. Some letters from Bear Nation. In Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, one guy in a Sprinter pulled up. He got out with a crowbar trying to get the crowd roared up. Patriots came across and gave him a dirt plant. They took his weapons, shoved him back in the van, and told him to hit the gas and never look back. An older lady, about 70, wearing cutoffs and a tank top. She has a baseball bat and a machete. She said she didn't need the bat. 4 women eating at a local bar. They were all armed and had their pistols on their table. People are tired of the games being played. The police are no longer protecting the properties of private citizens and businesses, which is something we've been seeing over and over again. Hell, in Minneapolis, the police lost their own precinct. Protests continue in Indiana. In Vincennes, a successfully peaceful protest was held with police and protesters conversing and interacting. In Terre Haute, Indiana, protests have become violent as night falls but remain peaceful during the day. On 2 June, 8 protesters were arrested during the Terre Haute protests. Several Antifa social media accounts that have spun up the activity. Some posts consist of plans and weapons implementation, including using paint bombs to blind and disable police. Pics of that in the report that just went up on Patreon as well. They're talking about using paint grenades and paintballs and throwing paint, like water balloons filled with paint, under the riot shields of the police officers so that they can't see. And for all the people who do ask, yes, that is a tattoo of Baphomet, because I did play drums for a decade in satanic metal bands because I was a heathen, but now I belong to the Most High. Okay? Okay. And so as a brief aside, if you've ever thought you can get far enough away from your creator that he quits loving you, you're full of shit, because you can't. Believe me, I tried. In preparation for an expedited protest in Newton, North Carolina, I learned that the NCISSAC Center, our version of a fusion center, has been overwhelmed with intel and is very slow in relaying information out. They did inform us over a phone call, that they have received intel that Antifa is moving their efforts to outlying areas of large cities in hopes of overwhelming the smaller police departments. From another viewer, we are located near Tampa. The city of Tampa had riots nearby and has a curfew in place. Governor DeSantis has activated the Florida National Guard. 100 of them, specialized in assisting law enforcement, arrived in Tampa over the weekend. We are in a suburban area, and neighbors are discussing beefing up our security and our neighborhood watch to include temporarily gating off the streets in and out and posting guards at those gates to monitor traffic. Good idea. City of Charleston PD officer. For the past 2 nights, things have been much quieter here. We're on 12-hour shifts with no days off. We are still picking up small groups of 2 or 3 people at a time who are dressed in dark colors and in possession of bricks or break-in tools. There have been no large groups, no fires, and no successful looting for the past 2 nights. We know this isn't over yet, but we will take the better news when we can. We are staying frosty on our posts. There was a rally or a protest this afternoon at a park. One of the gun stores, possibly other citizens, were around with long guns. One of the gun stores and possibly other citizens were around with long guns. Some suspicious rally attendees were working their way down a bike path and saw the citizens. We think the citizens contacted police but aren't quite sure. The report was 6 CRPD officers took the group into custody. Possibly this was a recon group. There will be citizens there tonight. Our contacts are no longer expecting trouble. Meaning that the gun store was likely being scoped out. And in Nashville, Tennessee, an excerpt, quote, "Neither of us realized that there were that many people that still wear a mask everywhere they go, even in their cars. But after talking to several people while we were there, it is clear that especially after the riots there the other day, they are scared. Even the shop that the van was being serviced at was taking precautions that were not just for the virus, but for looters and violence as well. The manager of this mechanic shop was armed, and every truck driver I saw stop in was too. Even on our way home as we were leaving both Nashville and Oak Ridge, people were definitely driving more erratically in what seemed to be a hurry to get away. We saw 2 dump trucks that were overturned on the interstate as well as a semi. And I lost count of how many abandoned cars were left on the side. I wish I could say that I'm just being dramatic. But the reality is that there are some very scared people right now. All right, some other things that we need to discuss. Y'all gonna feel the same when the government and the police come for you and your guns. What? How about this? Later, boo. Bear Independent Special Report. By the way, good job, Dance Monkeys. Y'all rock. Potential alliances. This is a working list. Good job, Badger. This is a working list of potential groups of alliances in the coming conflict. World War III, question mark. Based on reported rhetoric and actions. Let's come over here on a whiteboard for a minute, and apologies for not getting this done beforehand, but I've literally been here since 6 a.m. this morning, and it's 5:29 local. So, all right, most likely, we have China, Russia, Iran, Turkey, and Venezuela. Most likely this way, with potential, we have North Korea and Pakistan. And this we'd say are going to be the bad guys. Okay? So bad guys over here. Oh, by the way, my wife said to tell you that the Goats and Hose t-shirt is in the store. That's why she wrote it up there. Goats and Hose, baby. Goats and Hose. So, this is, we'll just say over here, World War III, question mark. Most likely bad guys, China, Russia, Iran, Turkey, and Venezuela, with potentially North Korea and Pakistan. Now if we come over here, wow, that's terrible. Try again, Bear. To the good guys. And again, apologies for not doing this sooner, but it's been a day. So, likely the U.S., Oz, Australia, Taiwan, and Malaysia just said F you. Malaysia just went over here. So that's something to pay attention to. Philippines. No, it was the Philippines. Malaysia's a question mark, and Philippines. Okay. Vietnam. India and New Zealand. This is the likely good guys over here. Okay? And excuse the bad handwriting, but likely is the United States, Australia, Taiwan, Vietnam, India, and New Zealand for the good guys. Malaysia and the Philippines are leaning this direction towards the bad guys. And then potential allies is NATO countries? Question mark. This is how things are shaping up right now. And I realize that this is kind of a mess. Screenshot that if you want to. And again, I'll review it one more time. The bad guys. The bad guys. No free speech here, I guess. I don't know, John. You're amongst 1,500 of your brethren. Simmer down. Most likely bad guys. China, Russia, Iran, Turkey, Venezuela. With potential additional bad guys. North Korea and Pakistan. And a swing from Malaysia and the Philippines are now leaning this direction. Most likely good guys. The United States, Australia, Taiwan, Vietnam, India, and New Zealand. And it very well may be Taiwan that kicks this whole thing on. Can't see the board, Bear. We're getting there. And take a screenshot. Boom, screenshot. There you go. And then potential allies for the good guys are NATO countries, question mark. This would be Germany, France, Poland, the United Kingdom, Sweden, Canada, Netherlands, the Czech Republic, Israel, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, Italy, so forth and so on. And of course, this list is subject to change. So those are the potential alliances, snapshot in time, shaping up for Whiskey Alpha Romeo. So recent points of evidence, not necessarily in order. Rhetoric from many officials on different countries include phrases like, we stand with, or we will fully support, so forth and so on. And 2 Pakistan officials, as we reported on, have been caught spying in Delhi, India. The U.S. has enacted sanctions against Iranian oil delivery to Venezuela. Venezuela has stated, we stand with China. Bad move, man. Bad move. Rhetoric and tensions continue between Taiwan and China, and tensions continue in the South China Sea. There have been multiple instances of conflict between China and countries like the Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam. And again, I think Malaysia and the Philippines are starting to see the light. They're starting to get on board with what China's selling. China is the big dog in that area of the world. And they are much closer to the Philippines and Malaysia than we are. So, I also think potentially I can't quite tangibly put my finger on it, but it feels like there's the potential to have some type of Chinese aggression towards Australia because of the import-export sanctions that are going on and the reneging of deals that's going on there and the increased presence in the South China Sea by China's military. And there's something there. That's a potential powder keg there, to say nothing of China and Taiwan. So, there you go. There's our special report on civil unrest, rioting in the United States of America, rioting around the world, and potential alliances for World War III. Bless y'all. Thank y'all for being here. 100K by 4 day. If you're new here, please like and subscribe and share. And Okie Storm Chaser, that's exactly right. Much appreciated on you, Brother Phelps. UK is a potential ally of the United States over here on the good guys team. Yo, JC Fouts. So yeah, 100K by 4-day. Please share this out. Rewatch it if you just missed it. I greatly appreciate you guys. I really, really do. We will see you guys tomorrow morning for the Daily Brief. Thank you, Sheepdog. Thank you, Bear Nation. Y'all rock. Shalom.